Welcome. I am Stacey Wilson Hunt from New York Magazine, and I am very honored to be here to speak to Anthony Anderson. Let's bring him up.
Oh, wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There are 600 people in this room.
7, 8, including you, white people. And 8. No, she's white-ish in the back. All right, 8. Now, you're mixed? Okay, well, we're still at 8 then. We're still at 8. How's everybody doing? All right.
So before we get to the show, I was wondering what it was like growing up for you in LA, and who were your role models in terms of entertainers?
Well, being born and raised in Compton in the 80s, well, growing up in the 80s, had to sidestep drive-by shootings, gang violence, crack cocaine, and all of that. So that was my childhood, and my role models and my inspiration for what I do and who I am today were my parents, my mother and my father. And outside of them, James Earl Jones. Yeah, and so.
Good role models.
Mm-hmm.
What did your parents do for work?
My father worked in the steel mills. Hold on one second, guys. I'm sorry. My father worked in the steel mills here in LA, and eventually owned 3 clothing stores for plus-size women and children. My mother was a telephone operator for the county of Los Angeles.
Very good. And at what point did you have the acting bug or the stand-up bugs? I know you started doing comedy. When did you have the notion to actually do it?
This has been my dream since I was 9 years old. At 9, I realized that this is what my energy was created and put on this earth to do. To entertain, and it's my responsibility to share this gift. I don't call it a talent. I call it a gift that I've been blessed with, and it's my duty to share this gift with as many people as I possibly can around the world. And what better medium than television and film? And
how old were you when you remember entertaining people, and what it felt like to see the reaction on their faces?
Probably, a little bit before 9. My mother is a failed actress. She's horrible. She is, and she was here to tell you she would tell you she was.
What did she want to do?
She wanted to do what I'm doing right now, but she couldn't because she had no talent. But it's funny because if I tell that to her, she said, yeah, ask him why. And I say, why, Mom? And she said, because I gave all my talent to him.
Of course, right. Sounds like a mom.
Yeah, but it's crazy because my mother was in a production of A Raisin in the Sun at Compton Community College. And I'm the oldest of 4, 3 boys and a girl. My sister's the youngest, and it was just the 3 boys at the time. And I remember sitting in the back of the theater, and I looked up on stage and saw my mother rehearsing running lines. And I said, that is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. I only wanted to be 3 things: play football for the Dallas Cowboys, be a lawyer, and eventually a judge or an actor. And at the age of 9, I realized that if I became an actor, I could be all 3 of those things and whatever else I wanted to become in life.
Very strategic and very smart. And who gave you your first big opportunity to perform, either as a stand-up comedian, as an actor in a film or a television show?
Never really done stand-up. A lot of people think that I did that because of the people that I've worked with, and Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy and Bernie Mac and Jim Carrey and the Farrelly Brothers and all that, and because I was able to hold my own with that. But I've been training at this since I was 9 years old. Went to the High School for the Performing Arts just to be an actor. Went to Howard University and was a theater major there. And there you go, And left Howard after my junior year in college. Came back home to L.A. Hung out with the family for a while. But my first opportunity was in the house, November 1995, with LL Cool J and Debbie Allen, back when it was Must See TV on NBC, and that was my first gig, November. And then the following year
it was like 20 years almost to the day of this experience.
Almost to the day. And they offered me another episode the day my daughter was born, February 6, 2016, and I haven't looked back ever since.
Wow. And did you see yourself as a comedy performer, or how did you sort of market yourself when you were going out for roles?
I'm an actor. I happen to be a fortunate actor who's blessed to dance in both worlds, drama and comedy. But that's how I've always seen myself. And it just so happened that the first 20-plus films I did were all comedies with some of comedy's best actors and directors. And that's what I did. And I carved out a nice little niche for myself, but realized that, you know, there was so much more that I had to offer than just the comedic side. And, you know, took a stance, and, you know, my manager and Brian Dobbins and my agent Darren Bogosian is in the back, and we sat down and strategically said, you know what, I want to show them what else I can do before I get typecast as just the fat, funny guy. And that's what we did. I had just created my first television show all about the Andersons. So I knew I had a gig, and I was content with not doing any more comedic roles until I was able to flex this dramatic muscle. And we targeted shows like The Shield and Law and Order and a bunch of other things. And, you know, for a while we were trying to get this little movie made called Hustle and Flow. And we were able to get the funding and able to make that movie. And that was the first non-comedic thing I had done. And then from there,
The Departed?
yeah, well, but that came much later. But then from there, you know, I got a call to do an episode of SVU for Dick Wolf, so I did that, and then I came back home. You know, All About the Andersons lasted one season, that was canceled. Then I got a call to come on and do The Shield on FX, and that's when my audience really took notice to the other side of me, you know, portraying this character, Antoine Mitchell. And that's when people in the business started to say, oh, shit, oh, he's an actor. You know, he's much more than
when you do comedy,
just,
you're not an actor for some reason.
Well, I mean, you know, I could have made a career out at being a character actor and this funny dude, but there was much more that I knew I had to offer and to share. And I was like, oh, he can do this. And so I danced in the dramatic world for about 7 years, you know.
You did like 80 episodes of Law and Order, right?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I did the last, you know, 2.5, 3 years of Law and Order, and, you know, had a little show on Fox called K-ville. I had The Shield and just little various other parts, and then you mentioned The Departed. And, you know, worked with the likes of Scorsese, Mark Wahlberg, Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Sheen.
How did that experience change your perception of yourself as a
I think
performer?
I changed their perceptions by being in that movie. But no, it never really changed I mean, you know, once Martin Scorsese has cast you in a film.
That's career defining.
Yeah, you know, no one can say, oh, you were in a Scorsese film? Oh, well, damn, I only remember you from Kangaroo Jack.
We remember you from that too. You were amazing.
Or My Baby's Daddy with Eddie Griffin. But so you know, once you've been blessed by Scorsese, then you know people look at you differently. You know, and what was crazy outside of that, when I was cast in Law and Order, even though I had been in this industry 17 years up until that time, $2 billion in box office receipts. You know, created shows and, you know, been a part of some huge successes. People saw me for the first time as Detective Kevin Bernard, and they were like, yo, this is going to do wonders for your career. You're really lucky. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As if all the years of working didn't have something to do with it.
You know, but it was just amazing just being a part of that machine. And no matter how successful you think you are, you know, there's always somebody out there that doesn't know your work and who you are and what you can do. And that is what happened with my tenure on Law and Order.
Very good. Mm-hmm. And on Blackish, obviously you're a performer, but you're also an EP. Mm-hmm. And I've spoken to the creator of the show, Kenya Barris, a lot about this. He's always stressed out about making the show good and making it have integrity, which is great because not all showrunners care. But what's been the biggest surprise to you in terms of the responsibility of making this show, which has made a huge impact, aside from it being funny and it's cute, it has fun family moments. I mean, an episode like what we saw tonight it's an important episode of TV, and I think you have to tread the line between the messaging element and also keep it funny, because if it goes too far, like a very special episode of Blackish,
Right.
people are going to be like, oh boy,
Yeah,
like,
no,
we want to be entertained. And how do you strike that balance?
You know, what Kenya and I, when we sat down and came up with the concept of this show, you know, this is our family up there that you see every week. Rainbow is Kenya's wife. These are our children. These are the experiences that we live. But we pride ourselves on dealing with divisive topics and dealing with them in a comedic way. You know, we pride ourselves on doing that and having people come to the table from two different mindsets and having a conversation. And hopefully after they have that conversation, they leave having a better understanding of the other person. And that's what, you know, I'm not going to say that's what we try to do. That's what we do with our show every week in dealing with, you know, the word, or dealing with gun control, or dealing with, you know, health, black men's health, and just dealing with all the things that we deal with. Not only in our personal lives, but, you know, as a community at large. And what surprises me is how our show resonates with non-African American viewers.
But Kenya has actually said that the demo is much wider than he would have expected because of the Modern Family lead-in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to say because of the Modern Family lead-ins. It's you know, that may help, but you know, we just deal with issues. We just happen to be a black family on television dealing with these things from our perspective. But the issues that we deal with is everything that everybody is dealing with. Absolutely. You know, raising children, being a husband and a wife, the problems that we all have, and living that American dream. Who doesn't want to give their children a better childhood and upbringing than what they had? I know that's what I'm doing. Growing up in Compton, you know, we started this conversation about, you know, what formed me. My son, if you guys remember the pilot episode, or if you ever saw the pilot episode, Junior comes to Dre and says, "I don't feel black." Mm-hmm. This was a conversation I had with my 12-year-old son. You know, he's like, "Dad, I don't feel black." I was like, "Hold on, what do you mean you don't feel black?" He's like, "Dad, I just don't." So we had this long conversation that I couldn't believe I was having with a 12-year-old, let alone my 12-year-old son.
What had happened to your son that made him
I mean,
talk about that with you?
I mean, one, we're the only African-American family that lives in our neighborhood. Two, not only was my son the only chocolate drop in his class, he was the only chocolate drop in his grade for 3+ years. All of his friends, the majority of his friends are white and Indian. There are very few African-Americans at his private school. He's growing up in the suburbs. He was born into a life of privilege, so to speak. And he sees what's going on with other young black men around the world, you know, and he realizes that that's not his experience.
So he associates strife with perhaps...
Well, that, and he looks at where I come from, where my family still lives, and he realizes and he understands that that's not his life. And I told him, I said, "Son, my 12-year-old experience growing up in Compton is vastly different than your 12-year-old experience growing up in the suburbs. Now, there's going to come a time in your life when it's thrown in your face how black you really are. Hopefully, I've equipped you with the tools to deal with that when that happens." He was like, "Okay, Dad, I get it." And he said, in the same breath, "For my 13th birthday, can I have a bar mitzvah?"
Which is what the pilot was about.
Yeah, and I looked him dead in his eyes and I said, "You really aren't a nigga, are you?" And I was like, "Son, that's not our heritage, that's not our culture, that's not what we do, but we will make a compromise. I will throw you a bro mitzvah." And that's what I did. I trademarked the name, and I threw him a bro mitzvah. And he'll be 16 in February, and still to this day, all of his Jewish friends say that was the best bar mitzvah they've ever gone to.
And I've spoken to Kenya about this, and actually Steve Levitan and Chris Lloyd from Modern Family have talked a lot about this too, and how they infuse real-life experiences into the show, because you're literally using your family as fodder for episodes. And Kenya told this horrifying story about how he wrote in all these details about an experience his wife had giving birth. I won't go into details, but I'm wondering, what's the most personal thing you have brought, aside from what you've just described, since the pilot, a story that you've written into the show or proposed as a plot line?
Several. I'll give you one. It was a big one because I had to clear this up with my son's friends. It was the sex talk episode when Bo walks in on Junior masturbating. And so
definitely a scene we've never seen in an ABC comedy before.
Exactly. So all my son's friends know that the show is based on our family, and Junior is him. And so it was like, yo, man, did your mama really walk in on you and catch you playing with you? And he was like, no, not everything is real. Well, it was real. It was actually from my childhood. My mother walked in on me, jacking off on her side of the bed.
That you kept that part out.
Yeah, well, didn't really want him to know it was me. So that, and then most interesting, there was an episode called Andre from Marsai, when my daughter is dating interracially. Well, my daughter in real life, before I met her boyfriend, was like, Dad, I have a boyfriend. What's his name? His name's Andre. I was like, okay. And I was like, who are his parents? What do they do? It was like his dad's name is Anthony. He does this. He's the quarterback of a football team and all that. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Andre's cool. So he comes to the house one day, knocks on the door, and open him up. My daughter opens the door. She brings him into the living room and said, Dad, this is Andre. And I said, hey, Andre. Oh, wow. I thought you were black. Name's Andre,
right.
Football player, daddy named Anthony. I'm looking at myself. He's Latino. And it was my own, my own thoughts and my own shit that I was dealing with. And I was like, well, damn, okay, why did I?
It's interesting, too, and this is what we love about kids. She didn't feel that was necessary to mention.
And I'm like, well, why did I assume he was black? And so that's what the episode Andre from Marseille was all about. He ended up being, she said, my dad, he's Andre. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Where's he from? She's like, Marseille. And I'm like, well, where's that, near Compton? She's like, no, Dad, France. I was like, oh, you got you a Tony Parker brother. Oh, yeah. And then he shows up and he's French. So,
we are all not what we appear to be anymore.
Exactly.
And in the episode we saw tonight, obviously there are a lot of laughs, but it's a serious issue. And I'm wondering, what kind of feedback did you and Kenya and everyone get after it aired? I don't remember reading anything that people were freaking out or incendiary comments.
No, we got great feedback from the show. I think we handled it well. It's crazy. When Kenya wrote this episode, we actually wanted to say nigga on the show.
I was going to ask about that.
And we wanted it to come out of Jack's mouth at the top of the show. And
you're just quoting the song, by the way. It's not him actually saying it. Right? And
so Paul Lee, head of the network, said, you guys go make your show. I will go fight this fight for you. And we were like, okay. And I have to tip my hat to Paul Lee and Ben Sherwood and everybody at ABC and Disney, because they give us complete autonomy with our show. I can't say I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop because the first one hasn't dropped. They allow us to tell our stories and to be who we are. And their notes have been smart from the inception of the show, from the pilot. And so we're excited to be there, and we're just having fun.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about what it means to be an actor?
That we're all rich and that we're all famous and that we all can do what we want. I'm part of the 2% of our union that work and make a living at this. My family, they see one of my movies grossing $100 million. They think that $100 million is mine. And I'm like, no. That's not how it works. So the asks and the begs become bigger. The
expectations of how you're going to spread the love increase.
It's crazy. That's why I hate when I have a huge movie come out at Christmas time, because they really expect it to show and manifest in their gifts that I give them. But yeah, and that it's easy. and that what we do is easy. I'm pretty sure this room is full of actors, and everybody comes up to me, I can do what you do. No, would you walk up to a doctor and say, I can perform open heart surgery? No, you wouldn't. This is a craft. This is something that I'm still working at 36 years into the game. This is something that I'm still trying to perfect 36 years after I said, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And I would never go up to anyone and say, I can do what you do. Unless I know I could do it better.
And I spoke to Tracee this spring, your lovely co-star, so talented. And we talked a lot about the opportunities that she's had in film versus TV. And she had told just some horror stories about auditioning for films and these terrible roles that she was brought in for and the tight dresses she was asked to wear and all those terrible things. And I'm wondering, did you see the opportunities for you as a male actor? Was there a chasm between the quality of the roles you were being offered in film versus TV, or did you find that you actually had some control over essentially what opportunities you had?
Well, first off, I like to say Tracee is a princess. Her mama's Diana Ross.
Yes, yeah.
So sometimes she had to.
She's a little different
She's
upbringing
got to
from you.
shed that shit and go up in the room and do what all these other regular actors have to do. Put on the tight dress, goddammit, and go get the gig. What was your question?
It was there for you a chasm between the quality of roles in TV and film?
Unfortunately, I think it's different for male actors. There is a difference. I have one address into an audition, though. I have. Didn't call for it. I just put it on. Just saying, I'm just going to go on.
Gotta
here in
set
a
yourself
dress.
apart.
Yeah.
Right.
But I pride myself on being able to go in and create things. When I didn't find it was right for me, or if I couldn't find the right role, or felt the right role was out there, I created it for myself. And that's something that I tell young actors. It's all about intellectual property and ownership, and creating your own destiny, and making it happen if others aren't making it happen for yourself. We started a black theater company years ago called. It actually started out of an acting class called Actors Boot Camp that we started with Bill Duke, and that was something that. He instilled in us and taught us. And from that class is when I created All About the Andersons. And I give Bill Duke the credit for helping me in my career as it is today. Because without Actors Boot Camp and the things that we started and the theater company that we were a part of, a lot of things in my career would not have happened, because I wouldn't have had the courage, I wouldn't have had the knowledge, I wouldn't have had the infrastructure with all of the people that I was working with at the time to make that happen.
Very good. And our first audience question is actually one I also had. It's from Derek, who wants to know, what was the best advice you were ever given going into TV, and from whom?
Bill Duke. We'll start right there.
And tell us who Bill Duke is, for
Bill
people
Duke.
who don't know.
You guys ever see Car Wash? He was Abdullah. You ever see Predator? He was the No.
He's great.
Yeah. No. Bill Duke is someone that who I really admire and respect, and his work speaks for itself. So to answer the question, the best advice that I've ever gotten going into television was, Anthony, it's about ownership. It's about intellectual property and owning that and creating the opportunities for yourself. Just to repeat myself, but that's what the question is, and that was the best advice that I had been given, and that's who it was given by. And I sit up here with you today as the star and executive producer of one of the hottest television shows to come along in the last 15, 20 years on ABC. So that's...
It was actually the really only true new hit comedy last year.
Yes.
When you looking
Thank
back
you.
on it, no, it really was.
Yeah.
Numbers-wise, everything, I think. It was a tough year, too, and you guys survived. Monique has a good nuts and bolts question. She wanted to say, where are you, Monique? And there she is.
Okay, where's Derek at first? Let's shout out Derek. Okay, what up, D? I see you.
I didn't mean to skip over Derek.
Okay.
But
See how the white folks do, D? I got you. I got you. I thought Monique was black until she raised her hand. So I was like, oh, no, I got to shout out Derek. Ain't too many white dudes named Derek.
Well, I was pointing her out because she was a stand-in on a recent episode of your show. And
Really?
She wanted to know how often, if ever, does your show cast background actors and offer a word? Is that what that says?
Okay, I
A
get
word
it.
or two? Oh, sorry, a word or two based upon what they've brought to the show as a creative extra. Thank you.
We do that when first off, how long, when were you there? For Lucy. Oh, so you're working in the office with us. Tell them how, before we go into your question, tell them how it is on my set, and be honest, I mean. No, how is it on our set and the people that, you can shit on me if you want to shit on me, you can be honest. If I was an asshole, be an asshole. I mean, let me know. I mean, but, how was it working on the set of Blackish? How long were you there? Just the day. Okay, just the day.
I really enjoyed it because everyone was very friendly. It was very relaxed, but you were like tight. You were on schedule. It was like precise. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. I really enjoyed the experience.
Oh, okay, so you had fun. That's all I want. I just want her to
Exactly
tell.
what he wanted you to say, so well done.
But to answer your question, yes. So if you were in the office, did you see Rachel, the fair-skinned sister who works the front desk? Okay. She's a background actress. She plays the receptionist every episode. There was something, a line that came up on the show that came up in the table read, and I looked over at the table. I said, you guys need to give this to Rachel. And they gave it to Rachel. So we make that happen. She's been our receptionist since episode 2 of the first season. She's been there. And this little jewel happened to come about, and I was like, it's only right that we give it to somebody that's been here with us from the beginning. Yes, and she's an actress. It's not like we're just giving it to somebody who's just walking down the street. It was like, no, this is what she wants to do, and she's been here with us. Why wouldn't she come in and tell me that my wife is here and she needs to see me? So yes, that we do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great. And on that note, how much control do you personally have over those sort of creative choices?
I'm the executive producer.
No, I get that.
One of many.
One of many. That's exactly my point. No, if you,
yeah.
obviously you and Kenya work very close together, but if you, can you bring these suggestions to him, and is there, a larger group of people you have to bring this to, or do the two of you sort of then go to the suits, as it were, and
right,
make
no,
your case?
It's, I mean, if we have an idea for somebody, if Kenya has an idea about an actor that he wants to bring in, he was like, yo, Aunt, what do you think about this person? Or who do you have in mind for it? I mean, so it's between us, and, we'll powwow about it, and we'll take it to casting, and we'll be like, bring so-and-so in. And, sometimes there's a dance that we have to do for casting for the for the network or whatnot, but we know who we're going to give it to. Faison Love is a very good friend of mine. He's coming up this week on this week's episode that's airing this Wednesday. Again, we read the table read, and one of the writers is just reading the character, and I look over to Kenya, and I was like, yo, Faison Love. And he was like, that's a great call. I make the call. Faison says he wants to do it. He's in the show the next week. Yeah, that's how it happens. It's kind of fun to have the power. It really is. Not gonna lie.
It's what all the hard work is for.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Because there was 19 years when I didn't have the power.
And you should enjoy it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been so much discussion this year about diversity, as if it's never existed before this year. It's sort of a funny topic. But how important is that in populating your writer's room, and how, how active are you and Kenya in making sure that the room looks like it should look? Now, with that said, making sure that it's inclusive of everyone.
Well, it's important for us to have people that look like us who are writing stories about us. And it's part of our responsibility because we've created this opportunity, for ourselves and for others. But we also want to hire the best for the job, regardless of gender and skin color. Mm-hmm. But we still populate our writer's room, and we have the look. Our writer's room has the look of the world. because that's what we're doing. We're telling a story not to a specific group of people. We're telling a story to the world. So, you know, we have Indian writers, we have black writers, we have white writers, we have female writers, we have gay writers. We have everyone from every walk of life. And it's our responsibility to give these people these opportunities who wouldn't normally get the opportunities to be in a room like this and to be on a show like this. You know, I've more often than not, I've been a part of shows where they were telling African-American stories, but there were no African-Americans in the room writing these stories. Yeah. That was a fight that I had when I created my show about my life, all about the Andersons. I was like, this isn't reflective of my world.
Did you actually fight with the network about who they wanted to hire versus
I did.
who you wanted?
Yeah, top to bottom.
Yeah.
And was willing to walk away from it. Was willing to walk away from it a few times on a few different levels because they had come to me and said they have this writer or a showrunner director team. And in creating my show, my partner and I, at the time, Adam Glass was my partner, we created our show, got it sold on our own, and they wanted to partner us up with a showrunner and a director. We didn't have a problem with that.
Which is a common practice.
It's common practice. But then they broke down the point system on the show, and they were giving this writer or the showrunner 10 points. They were giving the director 10 points, and they were giving me 5 points, and my partner 2.5 points. Now, mind you, I don't mind if you're eating at my table, but don't come to the table and take the biggest piece of chicken from jump. You can come back for seconds, but don't get the biggest piece from jump. And my manager, Brian Dobbins, is in the back. He will tell you we were fighting. I was like, yo, hold on. We were about to close my deal. And I was like, hold on, wait a minute. What are they giving these guys that they're bringing on the show? And they were like, oh, well, they're giving them 10. I was like, 10 what? They were like, giving them 10 points. I was like, each? And they were like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay, hold on, wait a minute. I got my partner on the phone. I was like, this shit ain't right. So you can go back to the WB and tell them that I'm not making this deal.
Good for you.
Yeah, and they were like, what? I was like, no, you go back and tell them that I'm cool. Yeah, at that time, I'm doing movies. At that time, I created the show to do it because I wanted to be home. So I was doing television because I wanted to do it, not because I had to do it. I had a flourishing movie career, and I felt it was insulting to break off 20% of my show to somebody who had nothing to do with it. You know, I don't mind what you bring to the table, and you are compensated for that, but off the back, to get more than for one person to get more than what me and my partner who created this was going to get, let alone get 20% of the pie. We were like, nah, fuck that. And, you know, we went back, and my lawyer was like, you sure? I was like, yes, I'm sure. Got my partner on the phone. He was like, so I got what I was supposed to get. My partner got what he was supposed to get, and we lived happily ever after. And so there's power in no. There's power in saying no and believing in who you are and understanding your wealth, not your worth.
And wealth, actually.
And your wealth comes from that, but understanding your worth and drawing the line in the sand. It was like, no, I'm cool. If we're gonna fight, this is how we're gonna fight. Because I've always prided myself on if I'm gonna fail or succeed, I'm gonna fail and succeed on my own merits and how I want it to be. Because that way I don't have anyone to blame but myself. I did it, like Frank Sinatra says, I did it my way.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm. It also speaks to the power of having a great team behind you.
Definitely.
You know, a lot of agents and managers and lawyers would have been like, dude, what are you doing? This is a huge opportunity.
Darren and Brian are great managers and agents, and I don't have yes men or women on my team. Mm-hmm. I set them down in the beginning and was like, look, keep it real with me. Tell me how it is. Tell me if I fucked up. Tell me if I'm not talented enough for that. I was like, keep it real. And they've kept it real with me from day one. Brian is the only manager I've ever had, and we're going on 17 years together.
Wow, that's very cool.
You know. I'll tell you how loyal Brian is to me and how loyal I am to Brian Dobbins. Brian called me up, and our management company, his management company now, passed him over for partner year after year for a few years. He called me up one day and said, hey, Aunt, you know, we're going into this partners meeting again this year, and I just want to let you know that if I'm passed over for partner, I'm leaving. And I was like, okay, well, this is what you do when you go into the meeting. You tell them that if you're passed over for partner and you're leaving, I'm going with you, and we're going to do this shit together wherever you land. He walked out of that meeting a partner. Am I lying, Brian?
Good job, Brian. And finally, I'd love to know what is something that you haven't done yet that you're dying to do?
Jump out of a plane. But insurance from ABC won't let me do it.
You had that answer very prepared.
Yeah, I'm 5 years late. I wanted to do it for my 40th birthday. There are things I want to do. I want to jump out of a plane. I will jump out of a plane. Also, change the way you think. Change the way you ask for things. Stop wanting and saying you want to do things. Because if you say you want to, I'll ask you a question. Have you ever said you want to go someplace, you want this pair of shoes, you want this lady, you want this man, and you never got it? Because all you did was create a want for it. That's all we do. So I change the way I think, and I change the way I ask for things. I say, I will go there. I will get this. I will do this. So I will jump out of a plane. I will run a marathon. Those are two things at the top of my list.
Hopefully not in the same day.
And maybe not in that order. Who knows?
Maybe not in that order. Well, thank you so much for your inspiring lessons and advice. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for your support.